Yo, Mark, it's an absolute pleasure having you here. It's an absolute pleasure that you jumped on so spontaneously and after a quick little back and forth, you took the time to be on here. So welcome to the Journey Beyond podcast. What's up, my man?
Yeah, excited to be here, man. Excited to jam.
Excited to jam. I've mentioned it before. I've been following your journey for quite a while, and I find it very impressive. You know, the message that you put out there, the kind of like person or the mission that you're putting out there to really bringing back attention into men's health and the high T life, as you so call it. And I got inspired by it because myself, I'm working with men specifically as well on identity work. I'm an identity coach, so I just thought this would be a perfect add-on to just talk about topics related to what you're talking about already. So for those that are on here that already know you, awesome. For those that don't know you, why don't you give a short little introduction to who you are, what you do, and where you're from?
Yeah, so my name's Mark Holman. I live in Austin, Texas right now in the States, and I'm a men's holistic health coach. And what I specialize in and focus on is getting men's testosterone levels high, doing it all naturally, so no TRT or anything like that. Main, main thing, main way that I do it is using blood work, and it's different than just going to the doctor. Like how I view things, it's more from the an optimal health lens rather than the absence of disease. So through what I've learned and my skill set, I can look at a pair of bloods and just distill it down to these are the few things that you need to work on. And when you work on those, it'll help support your body get to a good level of health. And then that allows hormones to increase as well. So that's like it in a nutshell.
And everything that goes with the blood work itself, I guess, because you work with men specifically. You are involved in quite some men's circles, right? So I think it's quite important to mention here that that's really the subject that we all should be focusing on, right? As men, like how to bring back awareness into men's health, not only physically but as well mentally. But I'm curious, what brought you to that? What was the realization? I guess you didn't just wake up one day and said, "Hey, I just want to analyze men's blood work," just for the fun of it. Like, what's the background story there? What got you to that point, and what got you interested into it?
Yeah. So where to start? I'll start at the beginning, I guess. So I didn't always do this. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was kind of just like going with the flow. My dad was an engineer, my brother was an engineer, my grandfather was an engineer. So I just kind of fell into that path and I became an engineer. Did that for 3 years, working in a 9 to 5 corporate job. And throughout that whole 3 year period, I absolutely hated every second of it. So that set the tone for me of like, this is not how I want to live my life. This sucks. Just like every morning waking up, I don't want to do this. So that dark night of the soul, that dark place allowed me to just hit that rock bottom and change things because I wasn't going to allow myself to just stay in that. Like I did stay in it for a long time. And I got really into fitness and like really just wanted to have a six pack. So then I was like starting to go to the gym and do that and see some progress, but then I would hit a wall. So then I eventually hired my own online fitness coach who's been a crazy mentor to me. He's still my mentor today. That's another story. So that kind of just opened my mind to the world of entrepreneurship and like you don't have to just work a 9 to 5 job. You can start your own business and you can make a good living doing that. So that started the gears turning in my mind. I eventually went part time at my job, and then in September of 2018, quit my job fully. Traveled to Costa Rica to spend some time with friends. Then I traveled through Europe for 2 months, just kind of discovering more about myself. What did I want to do? Like proving to myself that I could do something that no one in my family had ever done before. So I was traveling alone for 2 months. I lived in Sweden for 1 month doing like a work stay, did qigong, tai chi every morning. So it was a really amazing experience that no one in my lineage have ever done. So I was just
Yeah.
stepping out of the mold of what a Holman man does. So that was really empowering in and of itself. So then I came back and was just hitting the ground running. I got my personal training certification, was working at gyms, trying to build the online fitness coaching business on the side. I was also working at restaurants, and then this brings me to COVID. Everything shuts down. I was faced with a fork in the road. Do you just sit around, collect unemployment, and just coast, or do you go all in on the like dream life that you've been thinking about, fantasizing about, but haven't really truly gone all in. So obviously I went all in on that, joined a mentorship, and that was April 2020. And that was the start of my business when I went full time. So it's been 5 years and a little bit, 5.5 years since then. So it was the darkness that essentially brought me to a place of I want to do something different with my life. And then through the fitness coaching, just being obsessed with getting the best results, obsessed with myself feeling the best, performing the best, just being the best version of myself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, all the things led me down the path of blood work and more holistic health, and just continually reading bloods and working with hundreds of men, seeing the problems and just starting to see more of this testosterone thing, how that shows up from a physiological standpoint in the bloods, but then also how it shows up in how men interact in relationships, in business, in their career. And it was me. Like, even though I had my fitness on point and all that stuff, I was still showing up as a low testosterone man. I was a nice guy. I was a people pleaser, all these patterns and things that I'm sure you're familiar with and talk about. I was still stuck in that. And what really changed it for me was having the physiological increase of testosterone. I got mine over 1100 naturally. And I think every man should should experience what that feels like, because it's ridiculous. It's like masculine bliss. You're just like so confident. You take risks, just nothing feels like it's going to stand in your way. And I feel like every man should be able to experience that. And that's part of the reason why I do what I do, because I've felt it and it's amazing. Like, my whole life changed, every single aspect of it, once that happened to me.
Because obviously the mental kind of followed the physical, right? The moment you felt that within your body there was more free testosterone available, naturally confidence comes back. Naturally self-image increases. Naturally things just happen along the way. And I guess you then followed suit, mentally speaking, and build it around that. That's amazing, man. For me,
Yeah.
it was actually funny enough, because you mentioned a word that opened a little trigger where you said nice guy. I used to be a nice guy back in the days a lot, and the book that changed my life was Dr. Glover's No
Yep.
More Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
100%. I read that book 5 years ago, 2020 as well, and for the very first time until that point, I was kind of like caught up with the realization that, man, you are a fucking people pleaser. You are a nice guy. You are trying to make everyone happier, but you're just at this miserable place. That book really opened a lot of doors for me, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've had the
And
pleasure.
I felt that my testosterone from reading that book naturally just increased by 200 points.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like, yeah.
100%. Yeah. You're like, fuck. That book's so good in the sense of, I was reading it as well, and he's like describing what a nice guy is, and I'm like, fuck, dude, this is me at every single turn. I actually had the pleasure to meet Robert and hang out with him for a long time over in Australia, and he joined the retreat that me and my friend Corey ran, and then he's gonna maybe join the one that we're gonna run in Austin in February. So yeah, he's an amazing. He's a wizard, dude. He's a G. He's so good.
Is he? I guess he should be the living embodiment of what he's writing about, right?
Yeah, he is 100%. Like, he's to me, he's like one of the fathers of men's work, and how he shows up in his day-to-day life is that he just gives no fucks, which is just the most masculine thing ever. He's amazing. He's a great dude.
I'm curious for you, because I know how my journey unfolded, and obviously it was not only reading this book, right? Your life can't magically change if you just read one single book, but it kind of like starts a flame within, right? So what was it for you? What was it for you that kind of got you to the point where you said, fuck, I don't only see the results in myself, I want to bring this out to the world? Because obviously if the world would have enough free-flowing testosterone, if men would actually be confident enough or have like that great self-image, there would be no need to coach them, right? So what was it for you? What did you spot where you said like, okay, man, I actually, like, that's my mission. I need to go for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting slow burn thing too, because like, it's ever evolving. It wasn't, when I started my business in 2020, it wasn't even in my radar. Like, I didn't know much about it, and it's just been a continual journey of that. And even like when I had my test in like 700s, 800s, it was still like what I was talking about, but it wasn't from that experiential lens of like, once I got it to that 1100 metric and I doubled my free, then I was like, oh, yeah, this is it. So it was the contrast between the two of
Hmm.
feeling all the things that come along with, we'll continue on the thread of being a nice guy. Being a nice guy and low testosterone, those go hand in hand. So experiencing that and like how I was showing up in the relationship that I was in, I was subjugating my needs. I was putting her above mine. And then that created resentment. And then these covert contracts that I was doing things to get something back, but I didn't express that. So then I built more resentment, and it just feels terrible. Like it feels so
Hmm.
shitty
Hmm.
to just be stuck in that. It's kind of like a hamster wheel of just negativity.
Yeah, I feel you want once you. I think it's very hard to kind of pinpoint that you're a nice guy if you're not in a relationship. I think being single, you're kind of like subjugating the topic a lot, right? You find left and rights to say, well, I'm not with someone, so how do you want me to prove to myself that I'm a Mr. Nice Guy? But I think once you're really in a relationship and you kind of quote unquote fuck up in a relationship, you realize then, I guess, when you said going through the dark times, it's always the dark night of the soul that brings out those realizations to you where you're like, okay, if I don't change, I'll keep cycling and circling the same loops over and over again. And I don't want that. And I think that's just a quick parenthesis. I mean, that's what kind of sparked me as well. I went through the dark night of my soul around 2 years ago before I started diving into NLP, which kind of got my, cherry comb, honeycomb, which I held on to. But I realized as well that I got out of a really bad relationship. I understood that I was a people pleaser at that point. Still, I still for some reason didn't live by the rules that I set to myself earlier. And only then really entrenching myself into identity work, understanding the patterns that are kind of ruling my subconscious, I understood, man, there is just so much freaking work I still need to do. So many things that I say that I am, but deep down I know that I'm not, right? So that subconscious conscious barrier. But getting into high T work, like high testosterone work, like really the gym unfolded a lot of things for me 2 years ago because I went ham after that breakup. But diving into the physical standpoint, because I really want to spend some good time on the mental frameworks of high T and like what men's group really mean, because I think that's super important in nowadays society. From a physical standpoint, give me some of the little things that you started adapting, started changing? Because I guess it's not just a mental switch that you do. It's kind of like physical, repetitive work, the right supplements, the right nutrition, the right things that brings you to that point of high T and free flowing testosterone. So break it down for me if you'd like.
Yeah, so I was doing, even before I got my test really high, like I was doing all the things, focusing on sleep, training hard, eating like a really nutritious, micronutrient rich diet. So I was doing all of that. But the main thing that really switched it for me was what I talk about is like the high T lifestyle. And I think for me, it was when it's like an energetic thing. It's when I finally, like me and that relationship ended. Like we had a breakup. And then energetically, every single day, I wasn't putting myself first. And that was giving my brain the signal that you're not a priority. Like, stress, being in a relationship that you don't want to be is very stressful. So
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
I could do all the supplements, I could do all the things, but the base level stress was higher because I was in a relationship, because energetically I was like felt trapped. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to be here, but I am. So ever since I did that, I had that breakup, I was just flying after that. Like it was the best thing for both of us. She's an amazing woman, but it just wasn't right. So that for me was what really changed it energetically for me, and then how I was able to show up after. So the things that I was doing more from like a social level changed. I felt it really when I started getting into dating and like pursuing women that I felt were attractive. So like going on dates and just being around them and showing up as in that like masculine grounded energy, leaning into leadership. That just gave me so much positive feedback that I think that was a massive thing that allowed me to really get levels high from like a more, that's more of like a woo woo thing with less like science behind it. but I wasn't changing too much in terms of sleep, nutrition, training, and all
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
Like there were aspects of that too, because I had shoulder surgery in June of last year,
Yeah.
and then relationship ended around September, and then I was finally getting back into the gym around November, December, and then I got my test in February. So not being at the gym and then being back at the gym, that definitely helped, and I was able to put on a ridiculous amount of muscle in a short period of time, I think, due to all of this stuff that I was doing as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's kind of like a roundabout way for me.
No, 100%, 100%. I think it's like the combination of the lifestyle, the nutrition, and I think the woo woo, what you mentioned, plays a big role, to be very honest with you. Because I think it was 2021 or 2022, it was midst of COVID or like slowly coming to the end of COVID. Before I got into that new relationship, I thought I could bring back my self worth and my confidence through getting my head more around the pickup game, right? There's like this incredible book by Neil Strauss, The Game. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I thought to myself, okay, if I learn how to pick up women, that will be my answer to a high testosterone valued man in society. And I got into the book. I read it like once. I've read it a second time to really get into it. I checked out some of the videos from Max and Terrence on YouTube, and the more I got into that world, I realized that okay, so there is a massive discrepancy in values here. Like you have the pickup game that is really just about influencing or manipulating women to sleep with you and to get with you, which at one point you're in the act of it, you're portraying this high testosterone, high confident, super interesting persona that the moment the goal was hit, you go back into that same damp where you came from. You creep back into the cave and you kind of like feel dissatisfied. So I tried it out and I felt miserable afterwards. And I realized that maybe pickup game is not the answer to my problems. Maybe it's not something logical that I can just fake it till you make it, right? But maybe it's actually something that if you go deeper down, further levels down on, if I do this, that brings me that. Okay, I hit the gym, I do everything right, I do the testosterone, I'll take the right supplements, I'll have the right food, I feel amazing. Wow, what can I learn from that? Right? And if I then take that, what I've learned from that, and duplicate it and just add on to that, maybe that's the right answer. So that's the realization that I got to, that mental game is not only the answer. It doesn't bring you far. It gets you some woman, but it definitely doesn't get you to that high T level that you want to constantly like live with. Because what would you say are the benefits of highest testosterone for men? Why should
Yeah.
men focus on that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, biggest one that jumps out to me is confidence. So, like, if you look at someone who has low testosterone, they're not going to have much self esteem. They're going to not back themselves. They're going to experience more fear. And it's interesting because testosterone actually impacts the brain. It quiets the amygdala, and that's like the fear center of the brain. So if you have higher testosterone, you're going to experience less fear. You're going to experience less social anxiety. So like going up to women is going to be easier, and therefore that like gets you into the arena. I look at it like, I talk about this sometimes, is having a base level of testosterone is what gets you into the arena to then grow. Because like if you're in 200s, 300s, you don't have enough confidence to even step up. So like getting it higher then gets you like, okay, I back myself. I could do this. I step in. And then when you're in the arena, that's the positive feedback loop of you're putting yourself in situations where you're going to get hurt, you're going to get triggered, but that's where you grow. So like that's a framework that I look at it from, is like, well, you need this base layer to step in. So like a confidence level. Strictly from a physical realm, it's a lot easier to put on muscle. You're going to have better workouts. You're going to have better recovery. You're going to be able to utilize nutrients much more effectively when you do eat them. So if your nutrition is on point, it's just going to amplify everything. Taking risks is a big one. So that comes into the confidence. You take more risks, you get better results. You have more opportunity for big success. So that's an opportunity to like really lean in. Whether if you had low T, it's a little bit safer. You're like, oh, that's risky. I don't necessarily want to do that. That's
Hmm.
fear. You've experienced more of that fear, so you're less likely to be successful. So like there's correlation with men with high testosterone and high levels of success, because one, like they get into the arena and they experience all the stuff, and then they win. So they're currently winning, and winning actually increases testosterone as well, because you are also perceived as having higher status because you're winning. That puts you up the like social status ladder. Social status and testosterone are heavily correlated. So the more you win, the more your test goes up to a certain degree. They actually did a really cool study. I love talking about this. It's they did two different groups. One group was driving around the city in like a family sedan, so like a Civic or whatever, and they measured their testosterone, did that, and then they had another group, or they had guys do both, and then the second group was driving around in a Porsche, and the men in the Porsche had a significant increase in their testosterone. Why do you think that is? It's because the Porsche is distinguished. There's a higher social status associated to a Porsche because then the family sedan, you stand out. People see you and you're like, oh yeah, like I'm the fucking man driving this Porsche around. So you have a higher social status, so your testosterone goes up. And then that can create a positive feedback loop as well of more testosterone. Therefore, you lean in more and you continue to win. You continue to have more resources put towards what you want to create in the world.
That is quite interesting. I wonder if you could manipulate that study because I mean, imagine now the guys driving the sedan would be a multimillionaire. Would that actually change somehow the results? Or is it really something that if you're maybe not at a point where you are perceived as this high desired man in society, and then you have the materialistic means to show or to prove social status that will then elevate? Or is it really about something that is a little bit like further down, that if you would be a millionaire driving a sedan, would you naturally be low T? Or how would you see that?
Yeah, that's interesting. That brings something up for me as well. Is in terms of consciousness levels, like base layer consciousness, just we're all the same here. Then I feel like you would see that, like we're all just, we make $50,000 a year, and we put the guy in Porsche, like he's gonna have a boost there. Throwing in a little bit more of those variables, like okay, let's take a millionaire or billionaire, put him in a sedan. I don't know, but I'm guessing like because his internal worth is already so high, there wouldn't be much of a change for that person because his internal game is locked. If he's in a family sedan or a Porsche, it doesn't change his perception of his worth. And so that's also a really interesting point as well, to get yourself to that point of like, yeah, I'm a G no matter what the fuck car I'm driving, no matter where I am. And that frame of mind, like that's what it's all about, right? Like that's where we want to get. That's where having high testosterone puts you.
100%. Because when I look at, for example, because while you were explaining the study, I was for some reason, I don't know why, thinking about Warren Buffett, right? I read this great interview on him where he drives this 1978 Cadillac and he lives in this $30,000 home, still where he started living in around 35 years ago. That guy must be absolutely balling in high tea. He must be with his arm out and just absolutely roll. At the end of the day, I think it's all a mental game. Like from the level of consciousness that you have, like I always like to look at kind of family patterns, like where are you coming from? There's like genetics, obviously, and there's epigenetics. There's like what you have been taught by the environment that you grew up in that influence the way that you look at yourself. Naturally, I believe if you have a lesser standing and a lesser worth you look at yourself, I would perceive that if you would measure that would correlate directly with a lower testosterone, I guess, because the perceived value that you receive or that you have would then increase. So at the end of the day, what do you think on a mental level then? Like taking away all of the statuses, right? All of the materialistic kind of fucked up worldview that we have nowadays, that we need a Porsche to feel like we are high T. What do you think needs to happen, mentally speaking? I mean, you talk about that already a lot on your podcast and in your videos as well. What do you think needs to happen mentally speaking from a consciousness level for men to evolve, for men to like let go of that I need a Porsche to be someone rather than I am someone despite of the Porsche, whether I'm driving a sedan or not?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. And yeah, I say where I am is like where men's health, which is like the testosterone aspect, meets men's work, which is the more like the NLP, the mental emotional stuff. That merging both of those two is where you get this like ideal version of a masculinity, right? So yeah, there's a lot of the inner work that needs to happen. And for me, that's just like what always comes up for me is awareness. Is just where can you create more awareness around your thought patterns, your action patterns, how you show up in relationships, business deals with friends, in a way that you don't necessarily want to. So it's like creating this massive amount of awareness around your lower self, where it's showing up, and then having a point where you're like seeing all of these patterns, seeing all of these actions, and then that's where you make a choice. Where like I kind of think it's a conscious choice that you have to decide. You see it all, you're like, oh, I have the awareness of, oh, this is the thing that I always do. I always like don't speak up in an argument and I shut down. You're experiencing that moment, and then it's a choice of like, okay, this is what I normally do. I see it all. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to make this decision to change it. And for me, that's been my journey. That's how I've started to change patterns, to change how I view myself, because then I had a moment where I was like, oh, I'm in this pattern. I got out of it. I did something different. And then that creates more worth in myself. That creates more confidence that I can get out of it, that I can show up in a different way, that I don't like showing up in this way. And then I proved to myself that I can, and I can get out of it. And then it's just continually doing that and really just leaning into that edge. Because I was over in Australia for the first time for like 6 weeks, and the whole process, like one of the main intentions for me was just leaning into edges and just constantly, even before that, constantly like triggering myself of showing up as authentically as I can, expressing everything that I wanted, and then getting rejected and like getting denied. And that was like a core wound of mine, to like express something very authentic to me and then get rejected or get denied or it not be received well. So I was just constantly doing that, of like expressing something authentically. And then maybe it wasn't like received the best way. And that spiraled me the fuck out of here and triggered the shit out of me. But through that, I was like, oh, I was just watching it all as well. I was experiencing it, but I was also watching it like, oh, when this happens, you think this. These are the thoughts. These are what you run to. And so throughout that whole process of constantly triggering myself, building more awareness every single time. And then that eventually got me to a point where like I'm completely different, and I can hold what used to really trigger me. I can hold that tension so much more and just be with it, rather than crumbling and falling back into a previous pattern.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. I did a podcast episode last week, exactly around that topic, on how to redefine identity and how to rebuild identity, because identity patterns are basically subconscious patterns that are kind of like ruling the game for you. And there are 3 ways on how these identity patterns that rule your life, of who you are, how you're behaving, what you're doing in society, how they're being constructed, and how you can break them up and reconstruct them. Because identity is basically being built through 3 main levers. Level number 1 is context, right? If you're always used to being in the same environment with the same people, right? You say the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, you become. So if it's, I guess, in your case, in a sense, low T men all around, people who are drinking, partying, and not valuing life, obviously, naturally, you'll be the 5th one, right? So you had to change your environment. You went to Australia, completely new territory, right? Lever number 2 is repetition. So whatever you repeat constantly gets imprinted into the subconscious mind, and you kind of break old patterns and rewire them. And lever number 3 is intention. So what's the intention that you're setting out to when you reconstruct that, right? You wanted to break the status quo for your life. You wanted to increase your threshold, right? So these 3 main levers, I talked about it already on my episode last week. It's quite funny that you mentioned, because it's exactly that put into action, right? You went to Australia. You did things that were absolutely uncomfortable. You repeated them constantly until they became so common, so absolutely not a problem anymore, that you received so much from that and out of that. And I think that's actually exactly what like men nowadays in society should be focusing on more. Because what you do is exceptional. If you look at it nowadays, it is so difficult, or you don't have as many men as you should have, in the best case scenario, doing that kind of work, because maybe it has become too comfortable in society. It is easy to go drinking and go partying and not go to the gym and order fast food rather than healthy food, and I don't know, take an Uber rather than walking to work, right? So what do you think needs to change in society? Like, what do you think men need to focus on more in their life to get that shift that you've been experiencing over the last years?
Yeah, amazing question. Yeah, I think I look at convenience as the direct competitor with having high testosterone. So like all the things you listed, like taking an Uber instead of walking, ordering fast food instead of cooking a nutritious meal. All these things are very convenient, like plastic stuff like this, containers, all these things, chemicals. These chemicals clean really well, but the drawback of that. So I think it's looking into that one of just like seeing where are there areas in my life where I'm just so comfortable and just enjoying the convenience of these things, and see how you can constantly find an edge. Because like that's what I was doing. I was just constantly in the arena of what is something that's going to make me a little bit uncomfortable, not a little bit, like very uncomfortable, and doing that. So, and I'm not saying like you can't drive, you have to walk everywhere, like within reason,
Obviously.
but it's and it doesn't need to be in all areas of life. It's just like find a few things of your life that you know are gonna be uncomfortable for you, and like work on those for 30 days and see what happens. Because like, yeah, coming back to the identity thing, like if you do that, if you commit to that for 30 days, at the end of that, you're going to have so much repetition and so much competence in that thing that you're going to view yourself differently. And that's an identity shift. I think it always comes back to awareness for me. It's like, just find awareness in your life where you can improve and lean in to the discomfort and just consistently do that.
Did you find that for yourself, or did you have some inspirations as in mentors or coaches that kind of pushed you to that edge? And I mean, not only mentors in programs, but I consider mentors as well, great podcasters that you listen to, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of both. So I randomly just met one of my best friends now. His name's Corey, and he was from Australia, and he's in personal development. He's a men's coach as well. So having him mainly to keep me accountable of like, he was the one that was just like, when we were in Bali, he was just always pushing me like, yo, go talk to that girl. She was cute. Go talk to her. And I was like, okay. So having that was really, really helpful for me. Not so much, and he was definitely teaching me, and I learned a lot from him as well. But the real teacher for me was the action, was the doing it, was the time in the arena. Like I think that is the best mentor. This came to me earlier. It's like some people think they need to do ayahuasca and all these different things to just like rewire something. But in my opinion, that's great and it works. But it is just like you go and you drink and you go through this process. But then if you don't integrate it, it's worth nothing. So it's in the action. Like the medicine is in the action of having the awareness of like, oh, this is a previous pattern that I'm stuck in, having the awareness to make the decision to do something different. And that's how you become a different person. That's how you show up differently. That's how society changes. That's how men go from low T to high T, is they're making low T decisions. And if they were to change one of those to a high T decision, then the ball starts rolling, and then that gets them making more and more and more high T decisions.
It's the integration. It's the integration of it. Funny that you mentioned ayahuasca, because ayahuasca, I did take ayahuasca already three, 4 times, and lastly was actually in the Colombian jungle, in the Amazonian jungle, in March this year. And it's very interesting that you mention exactly that, because the integration itself, as in and of itself, taking ayahuasca is basically getting really, really drunk, lying on the floor for 8 hours, and it kind of you're just left with your own problems, right? That's it, base layer, you know? If you look at 70% of all people that have taken ayahuasca, they've come back and they've fell into the same old shit pots all over again, because they thought that the plant itself would give you the answer, but actually not at all. Everything that ayahuasca does, it's basically showing you what you already know. And it's just digging up a little bit deeper to things that you've pushed back and kind of like locked into a very big, very heavy drawer. It's opening the drawer and it's telling you, ta-da, have fun with it, try to figure out what's happening next. And if you don't have what you said, the repetition, the right kind of things that kind of guide you and support you in getting better, you fall back, and a lot of times people fall even further down than when they came and did the plant medicine for the first time. So 100%, it is all about the integration and what you do. So yeah, that was a point that I quickly wanted to add. What I said, what I really love, and I'm a podcaster, same as you are, right? I love doing podcasts. I love listening to podcasts, and for me, some two podcasts that I listen to on a daily basis, basically, is Chris Williamson's Modern Wisdom and Joe Rogan. Why? Not necessarily because of their guest list, but because of the way that they view problems. Because both of them follow that idea that do the uncomfortable things first, like eat the meat first and then the veggies after. You know what I mean? It's like do the uncomfortable things first. And I think it was a month ago in Chris Williams's episode. I'm just getting to that right now. He spoke about that in society, it's right now so hard for men to really show up and do the necessary work for them to have this repetition, to show up as men in relationships or for other men or for society themselves. Back in the days, you had real men. You know, men went out in the morning on a Sunday morning to bakery to buy a loaf of bread, and they dressed in a freaking suit. They put on their nicest outfit. They just, for them it was like, all right, I gotta just be that man no matter where I go. Nowadays, you don't have that anymore. You have this comfort. And he mentioned a concept that I want to bring to you, and I want to have your opinion on it, where he called it the reverse Icarus effect. Because, Icarus, that half god that flew too close to the sun, got burned, and then fell down on Earth again, is like this mythological figure. But in nowadays society, it feels that you have the reverse effect. That the moment, because we're so comfortable, the moment we get too close to the sun, the moment it starts getting warm, it's getting heated, the moment you start feeling that heat, you retract. You're like, nah, 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 nah. I don't want that responsibility. I don't want to take that risk. I'll prefer just staying in my comfort zone where I am. What's your thought on that, man? Because I think that's so true on what's happening right now in society. With a lot
Yeah.
of men, most of them.
Yeah, that's so good. I think there's a lot of factors at play with that. I think it's what's coming up for me right now is like the shame that society has dumped onto men for being like fully embodied in their masculinity. We've been taught like that's wrong. We've been taught that being assertive and just being a man, what a traditional man might be seen as, is wrong. And so like we've gotten that signals from women as well, and like toxic masculinity, that whole conversation. I feel like that has put so much fear into men's brains and hearts when we experience that exact thing, like, oh, I'm rising too much, or I'm like being too assertive, I'm being too much, let me retract because that's going to make everyone else comfortable. It's a nice guy epidemic. Really, it's just
It's,
like,
it's a
but
nice epidemic.
yeah, because that's what it is. It's like I don't want to be too big that it makes other people uncomfortable, and I don't want to make other people uncomfortable, so I'm going to sacrifice what I want in my life to please other people. And it's also interesting, this too, it's called tall poppy syndrome. Have you heard of this?
I've heard of it, yes.
Yeah, so it's a big Australian thing. And so being over in Australia and just like talking with a lot of Australians, they talk about this. It's like the crabs in a bucket of like, you have a crab starting to crawl out and like he's improving his life, and then the other crabs just bring him back down. And I'm not entirely sure like where it's from, but I feel that in America as well. Because even just like I had an incident the other day where I posted something on my story, and one of my old friends commented something negative about it, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, you as a friend you shouldn't be putting any type of negativity into my field because you love me. And so to me, that's like, oh, maybe that's not a real friend. And I told her like, if you're going to continue to do this and put negative energy into my field, like I don't tolerate that, especially from friends anymore. Like you can unfollow me,
Mhm.
because I've experienced that so much from just like my own traumas of placing so much value into how other people perceive me, and it's crippled me. Like I've been the crab that's like getting up and then almost like ask them, hey, please pull me back down, this is uncomfortable up here. And now like I have the awareness around it of like what it is, and now I'm able to just like cut it. And I'm like, I don't want any of that shit in my
Mhm.
life, the people around me. they're the ones who build me up, and I build up the people around me. Like, I don't tolerate any of that shit anymore.
100%.
Kind of got kind of got on a tangent there, but I think it
I feel
relates.
you. No, no, I feel you. We have that perception that the people that we grew up with are, or like the good friends that we grew up with, are supposed to be the people that we make it to the top with. You know, it's a long climb, man. It's a long, freaking lonely climb, and it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be rainy. You're gonna, I don't know, be close to giving up a couple of times. You know, talking now about entrepreneurship, talking about now kind of like becoming the man that you're supposed to become to step up for a family and for the rest of society. And we think that the buddies that we had a couple of years ago that are our good friends, and I 100% relate with you because I've been through the same and I've cut most ties, right? From, let's say, two handful of people that I grew up with in my childhood, I have contact with one. Why? And I haven't had contact with that person for 60% of the time. Only recently we reached out again and we started hanging out and we became really good friends again. Why? Because if they're not meant for your journey, they will make you feel it. Because their perception of life is different, their ideology is different, their set of values is different, and they follow their road. If it's wrong, I don't know. Is there wrong? Is there right? Maybe on a macro level, but on a micro level, we're just all trying to figure it out. But at the end of the day, what I realized that you have to put time in between, you know, your old you and your new you. And most of the people that you thought that were good friends are not really good friends when it comes to your success. Because at the end of the day, we're all very egotistical creatures. And at the end of the day, not everyone has that container for empathy and compassion, right? So most of the time we think of ourselves first. And if you're all of a sudden the guy traveling to Australia and kind of like living the life, well, obviously, if I'm still here in the same shithole, you'll make me feel bad. And that's okay, right? That's okay. That's something that where you got to be like, all right, well, you know, we're good for now. I'll meet you back when you've come around to your own, like when you've reflected a little bit and come around like what's really been hindering you to grow on that same level and same pace with me. So 100% I feel you there. Your environment makes all of the difference. Your friends that you spend with time with make all of the difference.
Yeah, that I think that's one of the biggest like hurdles and lessons that I've had to learn, because growing up I wasn't that close to my family, so my friends were my chosen family. And then now getting to this point where I'm just I was gonna say I'm changing, but I'm not. I'm just stepping into who I am. I'm like really just peeling the layers back of what's actually in here. And they see the mask that I've been wearing. So as I'm really just like revealing who I actually am, they don't have a frame of reference for that. Even subconsciously, they try and bring me back into their frame of reality of me. And I don't I don't want that anymore. So then there has to be like a conversation or something, like an energetic cutting or something there. But that's been really fucking hard for me because I have so much of this attachment to them and their opinions of me. But then it's again creating the awareness of like, oh, every time I get a message from them, it's something negative. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Like what is that telling me? Probably that they're not supposed to be in your life anymore.
And it's testing you.
Yeah. And
Because
it's testing. It's like you say you're this high T dude who doesn't give a fuck. You give a fuck right now.
yeah, if it would be any other dude or chick on the internet that would send you negative reviews, you would be like, just all right, have a good day,
Yeah.
bye bye, take care, you know. But
Yeah.
that is like a thousand stabs in the back, you know.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like betrayal.
It feels like betrayal on a certain level, but again, it's their path, man. You know, it's so difficult to get your head around that. And I'm saying that right now so lightly, but trust me, I'm no different. I feel that too, but I'm just trying to look at it from a meta perspective now, trying to say, okay, actually, it is quite simple. Let them go. Either they will find their way back or they won't. You know, life is so rich in people, and I guess you met so many cool people in Australia as well that, you know, proved you again that the right circle, kind of the if the vibe matches, the tribe will gather, right? Um, tell me about the men's retreats because I've never been to one, but I'm highly considering for next year to join one because Luxembourg is a small country. I mean, I don't know how many inhabitants does Austin have? Austin, Texas.
I think we're about 1 million.
About 1 million. So the city of Austin has pretty much about twice the amount of population than the country of Luxembourg has, right? So, and there we're then looking at a lot of people who are very high, well, very much involved in the high status game where money is more important than values or than
Yeah.
core principles. Um, I have a feeling that the core group I have here is like 6 to 8 guys that would probably equate to around 20 to 30 in Austin. But, I'm really feeling the craving to step into that world of men's work more frequently as well and learning from men. So, how was that for you? What did you learn from that? And, like, what is it all about, man?
Yeah. I love men's retreats. So I've been to two. One of my mentors, that's pretty much what he does. He does life coaching and then he does men's retreats. And so been to two of those. And there's a lot of dynamics that are at play, but one of the most simple and easiest ones is essentially like creating brotherhood. So a lot of men are alone these days. Like they have their friends, which are the dudes that they go out and they party with. And they don't have like deep conversations. They don't get vulnerable and stuff like that. That's most men. So they come into this space and they just get blasted wide open. Their hearts just get cracked and they get to be seen in that by other men. And also other men being like, I experienced the same exact shit. And they have that experience where like, oh fuck, I'm not alone. And then you forge this close relationship, this brotherhood with other men that are all going through the same thing, that are all just like showing up in the most vulnerable way and getting supported and getting shown that like it's okay to share anything and just like be exactly who you are and share the deepest, darkest things that you've never shared to anyone and just be received so graciously and just with so much love. So fucking healing. That like heals. There's a lot of like father wounds that can be healed. Like, as men, where a lot of us are looking for the approval and love of our father. And then we get into a group like this and we finally feel what it's like to feel that from like another powerful man, to feel like completely seen and completely loved. That is like one of the biggest things. That's just so amazing to see and to feel. And I've experienced that on all the retreats that I've gone, I've facilitated too as well. And the brotherhood that's created is unreal. It's like, it's for life. It's like when back in the day when men went to war, the bonds that were built, or even today, like the bonds that are built it's almost like words can't describe it, because you're just in the thick of it. You're in the shit. You're just going through, mucking through the mud. And when you do hard shit together with other men, like that creates a bond that's unbreakable. So that's a massive piece of it. And then also it's kind of coming back to what we've talked about. It's like being on the edge of you're gonna do shit that you've never done before. So I'll share like an exercise that most men retreats do. It's usually like a shame circle. So you get up and you just share. Well, first, I think the way to do it is the facilitators, the leaders, they go first. Like you have to lead from the front. You set the container, you set the tone, and you share the most hectic shit that you've had to deal, that you've experienced shame with, and you just let people know like this is some deep shit, this is some heavy shit, and it's okay to share and to be received in that and seen in that. So then that when the guys get up and they go and they share the shit that they're back in the minds are like, no, don't share that. Don't share that. Then you get up and you're like, boom. And they're like, fuck. Mm-hmm. Then that gives them the permission, that gives them the safety to lean in and go hard and share something that they've probably never told anyone in their life. And then to do that in a group of men, to be seen, to be loved through it, so healing, because shame can't exist in the light. Mm-hmm. So bringing up something that maybe you've done or something that's been done to you that you've never told anyone, speaking that forward in a group of men, it's unreal. There's so many shifts that can come from that. Just such a simple thing, but it's so powerful.
So magical. Because obviously you can't expect to, I mean, naturally speaking, if you're in a relationship, in a great relationship with a good partner, you can expect from your partner to hold a container, right? Because that's the motherly love for, being vulnerable around the feminine energy. Well, I would count myself very lucky now to be in a relationship where that is possible, right? But definitely I fully and 100% feel that in a men's circle, it's just a different game. because I think at the end of the day, we're all just going through the same kind of problem, right? We're all having some kind of father wounds deep down to some kind of extent or level, trying to prove to the world that we're just like our fathers or not like our fathers or very far off of it. Um, wow, it's that sounds so powerful, man. I
Yeah.
think I
Yeah, I
think
think
you
another
go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I got something else to say. Like also with the relationship piece as well, there's this is like split decision for me. There's like men's coaches who say you don't bring anything up with your woman, like don't share any vulnerability, which I think that's bullshit. Like that is cutting off so much opportunity for connection. But it's also I agree with some of what they're saying, like you shouldn't just be emotionally dumping on your partner as well, because that's not fair to them. You're like using them as a crutch to process your emotions. So that's where brothers and men's circles come in. You have this shit that you're dealing with. You go to the men's circle, you dump on your brothers because that's what the container is for. You like express, this is what's going on with me, this is how I feel, all this shit. Get held in that, maybe get some feedback. And then what I love about Brotherhood and men's circles, good ones, then it's like, okay, you've shared all this stuff. What are you going to do about it? Like, what's the action that comes on the back end of this, of sharing this to integrate this into your life? So if it was like an issue with a partner, you bring it into the men's circle, into the Brotherhood, into the retreat, you get feedback on it, you get a pretty clear path of what you need to do, and then you bring it back to her in an integrated way. And you share, like, this is what was coming up with me. I worked through it. I got some support. This is how I'm going to move forward with you. Wanted to like clue you in and let you know what's going on. That to me feels a lot cleaner and more integrated and more conscious. Now
Mm.
there are parts where like, you know, you're feeling vulnerable and you share something with your partner. I think that's completely okay. But if it becomes this point where you're just like emotionally dumping and processing through her, that can throw off the dynamic, and then you know she's going to be less attracted to you, because that then puts her into the mother role of I'm always constantly trying to like soothe your emotions. That's where the brotherhood comes in so much, so that you're not constantly needing that motherly soothing. You go to your brothers, you
Yeah.
handle that, and then
Yeah.
you come back with a much more grounded and integrated energy.
And you lead then in the relationship. I think that's
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
I just had this thought coming through my mind because a men's circle is something, because you know when you're living in Luxembourg, and I'm very prone to the English speaking world, so I've always been in contact. I always had friends in the United States or in Australia, right? But that's like worlds apart, man. I can imagine for you, United States, Australia, that's like literally flying one time across the entire globe to get there. And I've always been that kind of person that said, okay, well, I need to go then somewhere else in the world to kind of experience that. But something that just crossed my mind, maybe I should focus on where I'm at right now, because probably there's men as well needing that. And most likely I will get my head around creating a men's circle or doing some men's retreats over here as well in the future. And it'd be my absolute pleasure of inviting you then flying over from Austin to then do that here with me. Because I think specifically here in the world where money is dominating the male ego, there's a lot of underlying emotions and triggers and just stuck emotions that just need some real resolving, right? Because I think men nowadays they're scared to speak up. You know, they've been taught their entire life to suppress emotions wherever they can. And one, it's not natural. Like emotions are there to be expressed, not suppressed. Second of all, if you look at the emotional spiral, right, the lowest negative emotion is fear, depression, and death, right? But everything else, well, sadness, fear, depression, and death. But everything that builds up from that, you have jealousy, you have shame, and so on and so on. Deep down, if you have a father wound, if you've experienced some emotional trauma, it is tough. It is not necessary. Like you can't expect someone to just share their deepest and darkest troubles. That's where men's circle come in, because you have the safe container of men who can actually hold it. But in our nowadays society, you don't have that. It's not natural. So what do? Naturally, you go further up on that ladder to basically cover or masquerade the sadness with a feeling of jealousy, with a feeling of shame, with a feeling of ah, guilt. You always try to mask it further up, but actually deep down, and I can imagine those man circles are very emotional, because if you break that onion down to the bottom layer, you can really express then your core emotion, what has really been going on. And that's so powerful, man.
Yeah, because I mean, it's exactly that. At the basic level, it's a space where you can share something that you've never shared before, or that you haven't
Hmm.
felt safe or comfortable to express. That's just stayed trapped in your body. So then when you finally voice it, it's just like, oh, feels so good. Like that's the at the
Yeah.
most basic level, just that is
Hmm.
fucking amazing.
Ah, that's awesome. I mean, men's circle is definitely something that the world needs more of, and we will definitely get to that. But I'm wondering now, right? If imagine you're a listener right now of this episode, you hear of what you're saying, like, awesome, Mark. You know, you have men's circles, and you know you got to check your blood work. Like, what is something that someone right now can start with? Let's say you've done blood work quite recently, or I've done blood work quite recently. I know my testosterone is around like in the 650, 680 range. How can I improve that? What should I do? What is something that I can do starting tomorrow? What foods, what supplements, what can I do to bring that back up, right? To then evolve naturally
Yeah,
that direction.
yeah, good question. So my answer is it depends. Which is like
Good
the
answer.
answer everyone hates, but it's the right answer most of the times because everyone's different. Each like your blood work, yeah, you're 680 or whatever. Like I would want to see that and understand what does the rest of the picture tell me as to why it's at that level.
Hmm.
So it's really dependent on the person. If I were just to spew out a bunch of testosterone boosting supplements, they might not work for you because this is a really good example. Zinc is really important for testosterone. But if you're not zinc deficient, and I'm like, yeah, take zinc, you're not going to get the result because you're not zinc deficient. So I would need to know, are you zinc deficient? Are your stress levels really high? Or are they not? And if I tell you to take this, that's going to help with stress, maybe you won't get a result. So that's why there's this discrepancy in like some things work for some people, some things don't work for, or some things don't work for others. And it's because the underlying mechanism as to why testosterone isn't as high as it can be. So I'll offer that to the audience here. You can find me on Instagram, Mark Holman Health, and you can just DM me your bloods, and I'll analyze them for free. And I'll just be like, look, this is what I see. This is what you need to do. Go for it.
That's awesome, and I'm definitely gonna get back on that topic to take take up that offer.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I think that's really the base layer, and you're right. You're right. I think we nowadays we always just want a one fit solution. Just like tell me to take these supplements, and that's how I get big and buff and comfortable, confident, right? But I
Yeah.
guess it's not just that.
Yeah, it's not
It's
just that. That's what everyone comes to me and they ask me, what supplement? They think testosterone optimization is literally just supplements.
Mhm.
But, based on this conversation, you can tell it's way deeper than that. Supplements help. It's great. Yeah, they will work if the mechanism that is being used is what you need. So there's always that, like, I always make sure to bring up that caveat because it's important.
What else do you think men might need to hear right now from you that can maybe bring them on the right track? That can maybe bring them into the right steps to work on that.
Yeah, so most guys, they're overly stressed and they're under recovering. So, and those are the two biggest mechanisms for testosterone is sleep and then also stress. So the guys who are running away from feeling certain emotions, like they tend to overwork and therefore that pushes their stress really high and increases cortisol on a chronic level and that kills your test. So looking into stress levels, where are they? Are they really high? That is fine, but it's also we need the management of it. We need stress management to like high stress is good as long as you can manage it and you're able to like swing the pendulum back and get out of sympathetic nervous system and get back into the parasympathetic. A lot of guys today are stuck in that sympathetic where it's just go go go, they can't rest, they can't even when they are trying to rest, they can't. So, managing that, managing the stress levels and then looking into sleep as well, making sure that you're getting enough sleep, going to bed on time, optimizing the circadian rhythm. So, really utilizing light to your advantage, waking with the sunlight, getting outside, watching sunsets. And then when the sun goes down, not having bright lights set up, using more amber, like lights like this,
Hmm.
amber, orange colors that mimic more of a sunset, of like fire, rather than just like a white, bright ball of light in the sky, right?
Yeah.
So that's a tactical thing for circadian optimization. That's a big rock mover for sleep. And most guys are on their screens, which is just like blasting their brain, stopping their melatonin production. And even if you are falling asleep, then if you're constantly on screens, like the sleep quality is going to take a hit. So it's quality, quantity, and consistency, making sure those are on point. So consistency is going to bed and waking up around the same time, because our bodies like that rhythm.
I assume you talk a lot about that on your podcast as well?
I used to do the podcast. I don't do too many episodes anymore. But yeah, those are the main pillars that we have to make sure that they're set before even having a conversation about supplementation. Like that's the basics. It's the basics, making sure the basics are foundationally sound, and then we can start to move into a little bit more of that optimization space.
That's amazing, man. I mean, hey, we've been through an entire hour now of just wrapping around the topics of men's health, men's circles, supplementation, high T, low T. Is there anything before we wrap this up here? Anything that you want to say or leave to the high T community out there, or those
Yeah, I think
trying
it's
to be?
yeah, I think it's more of the message that we were talking about earlier. For me, it's just leaning in, just leaning into the discomfort, leaning into, because like people know what they need to do, but sometimes that comes with a lot of uncomfortable emotions, and then so you like people can get into that avoidance. I've done that. I still do that, but it's then having the awareness of that avoidance, like, oh, I'm avoiding this. That is feedback that I need to do it. So like fear, whatever you're afraid of, whatever you think of and fear comes up, that's usually a sign for you to lean in and do it.
Where can people find you? How can they
Yeah,
link up to
so
you?
Instagram is the best place. Handles Mark Holman Health.
Let's go, my man. Wow, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. I learned so much from here, and I'm definitely going to take you up on that offer to bringing you out here to Europe, so you discover tiny little Luxembourg. You're gonna
Hell
laugh
yeah,
when you
dude.
see it, but you're gonna love it once you're here. Yeah, man, it's an absolute pleasure. I hope we can definitely stay in touch because I think you're a great person. You're such an inspiration to men out there, and I think people can learn a lot from you out there.
I appreciate that, man. Fully receive that.
I appreciate you too. And with this being said, thank you all for tuning in today and see you in the next one.